She-Hulk was an awful attempt at trying to modernize the MCU. It's a series that basically nobody liked, but one person cannot let that go, and that is the main star, because she is addressing the, quote, toxic response to the series yet again. It says Tatiana gets candid about the reactions to She-Hulk Attorney at Law following her introduction in the MCU. It has been 3 years, okay? I think that it's finally time to let this series go. Clearly, she's not getting another season. They're probably never going to bring her back into the fray. And while, yes, sure, she might have felt at the time that the response was toxic, I think that she should probably look back on it and realize that people were just criticizing the series based on how disappointed we were with it. There was initially quite a bit of hype surrounding this project, but then, as time went on and we got more teasers and trailers, that hype really died down, and then it came out and it was terrible. I mean, clearly not a lot of people liked it. Even the critics didn't give it higher than an 80%, but the fans gave it a measly 32%, which is terrible. Let's be honest. If we were comparing these numbers to back in the day for the MCU with the height, if you compare those to like Infinity War Endgame, these are like peanuts compared to the 90s and 95% that those had. But it just wasn't a good series, and that's why people didn't like it. But she decided to address this situation yet again, including the online hatred towards the She-Hulk character. Oh no, guys, you're not allowed to send any hatred or criticism towards this fictional character. How much of a lunatic do you have to be to really say, oh my gosh, we have to protect this fictional character? The script in my meeting with Jessica before the audition was like, she's so funny, she's so interesting. I'm so curious about her take on this character. I feel like she and I can just build something really interesting, and we have similar senses of humor. That just became more and more apparent as I was working on the project, that she was like the thing. So she can say that her and Jessica had a similar sense of humor, but clearly that sense of humor didn't resonate with MCU fans. Just because you think you're funny and just because she thinks you're funny does not mean you guys are actually funny. I also found interest in the idea of, and as we sort of got into this series, inhabiting a body that makes people talk to you differently, respect you differently, treat you differently, objectify you. I don't really think anybody was objectifying her or She-Hulk. I'm just pointing that out. What does that do inside to how you feel about yourself? Where does that instill confidence? Where does that detract from how you know yourself to be when you're performing what people expect? I don't know, because to this day, my comments on my Instagram back 40 weeks ago, they like all go in over there. For me, what's so exciting is that Jessica knew that was going to happen. She wrote it into the show. There's something in She-Hulk that is looking out, and she's aware of the camera. She's aware of somebody watching her. There's something about the inherent quality to that character that is self-aware and that understands her place within the MCU or within a series or a TV show or a scene or whatever. This sounds wild to me, because she's talking about how this character is aware because the lead writer wrote it this way, even though, again, she's just a character that somebody wrote. It's not like she's actually a real woman who's struggling to be taken seriously. She's fake. I mean, how do you not understand that? It also says, while there were definitely positive sides of the MCU and who enjoyed Jennifer's debut in the MCU, the result of She-Hulk Attorney at Law was a combination of legitimate problems with and criticisms of the series and factors that were out of their control. Outside some of the controversial CGI work, the Phase 4 series also suffered from sexist backlash, with She-Hulk being review bombed before it even debuted. Whenever any male-centered franchise introduces or puts a bigger focus on female characters, including She-Hulk, there is always a vocal group who feel those decisions are forced in favor of progressive agendas. The problem isn't a female-led series or franchise. Look at something like Tomb Raider, for example. That has been wildly successful. The problem is the way that modern-day identity politics and agendas are being pushed into these pieces of content. I mean, you just admitted that the lead writer decided to write in a narrative about how She-Hulk was misunderstood and how she was objectified. That is because at the end of the day, you know you don't have a good product. So you need to address the backlash, even though it's not like hatred or harassment, it's just plain and simply criticism. The problem with the modern day MCU is that you have sidelined everything that made it special, all of those characters and those storylines, the relatability to some of these characters, the general message of like good versus evil, and you've decided to go in this direction of we need to make a female centric show to own the chuds, and clearly that's not going to work for a lot of people. And well, it's not like the fans of this series showed up to support it after the fact, because it's got still a measly 32% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that it's time Tatiana kind of lets this series go, but even 3 years later, she's still going on about it, addressing the toxic responses, even though she's played the victim 100 times already. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.